Welcome back. I've got a brand new set of dies that I've created to show you some new designs I've done. I've got a card here that's got a fun technique. It's called a faux letter press. And let me showcase some of the dies that we'll be using. I've got them put on boards here for you. This is the California collection. We're going to be using the background from this collection, as well as our set B, which is a decorative set of labels, and the San Francisco out of the collection, which is a really beautiful detailed die. Along with these, I'm going to also be using the Spellbinders Grand Nestabilities large labels. And I want to show you a really easy technique for getting these nice and embossed. Okay, we'll start with our background first. And I've already gone ahead and put the labels onto a piece of coconut white card here for you. Now, as you can see, I've got 3 of them lined up together. What I want to do is actually emboss the center one, but then I'm going to take it out and cut the other 2. I find it easier if you do the embossing first, and I'll tell you why. Because once it's cut, it does tend to slip and move around a little bit. So I've noticed if I run it through, do my embossing first, I don't seem to have that problem. So as we pass it through the grand caliper, and we just have the sandwich for the embossing, so it's the gray plate, the tan matte, and the pink plate. What I can do now is carefully pick it up, move it over to my cutting plate, and just take this center die out. I've got it taped into place, so let me just gently lift that. Okay. Set that to the side. And see, nothing's actually moved, so you're good. You don't have to worry about it flipping around, and you've also got your embossing in there. And now we're going to cut it through. So I've just changed it out to a cutting plate. You hear the cracking? That's perfectly normal, especially with the label shape, so don't worry if you hear that. And we should have a really beautiful label shape here for us. So now you can see that the label has been cut and the center of that has been embossed with a really beautiful detail. I love the way that looks. It just gives it a little bit extra, I think. So let's set this aside. I've already got one we've done earlier, so let's pop this to the side, clear our plate, and I'm going to show you a faux letter press technique, which I really like. Now, I'm using the background from the California collection. It's a gorgeous background. Now, the thing is, if you take an ink pad to this, you might miss spots. So an easier way to do this is with a re-inker. I've got the Clear Perfect Medium re-inker, and I'm just going to put some onto a piece of cut and dry foam. And it's very, very sticky embossing ink, so it takes a second for it to get going. Get it down to the nozzle there. There we go. We're starting to come out. See how sticky that is? It's almost like honey. It's so thick. But what you can do is saturate a piece of cut and dry foam. Get it nice and saturated. Pop some more on there. Kind of poke it in so it works its way in, and we might have to re-ink that. But I find if you do it this way, you get a much better coverage. So we're going to ink directly onto our die. Just work it back and forth. And it's a clear ink, so it's difficult to see. We are going to need a little bit more in here. Get it going. Very, very thick. And let's see if we can get the rest of that inked. Pop it across and just keep tapping it, and you'll be sure to hit all the spots on the metal. And let's hold it this way. And you can kind of hold it to the light and see if you've got all of it inked. I've got a little bit area at the end there. I think it needs a tiny bit more. So let's just put a little bit more onto our piece of cut and dry foam here. See if we can get a nice coverage on there. See, if you were trying to do this with an ink pad, it would be, I think, more difficult to get into all these little nooks and crannies. So this is the way to do it. Now that looks really good to me. Let's see. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is take my plates and get my cutting plate ready. And I'm going to put it onto a piece of blue card. And And I'm just going to turn it over carefully onto the card. And I'm going to tape it into place. There we go. Put one on each side. There. And we're going to run it through the grand caliper. Now what that will do is it will transfer that ink onto the cardstock that I've taped it to. Let's give it an emboss and really bring out all that pretty detail. So carefully move it over here. Oh, excuse me, I've got to do one more pass through here. The detail on these dies is incredible, so you will have to do several passes just to get a nice even cut with it. So let's roll this through. And because it's a background, they do tend to take more. You may have to turn it one more time. Let me see. And get the middle. Just keep moving it around a little bit on your plate. There we go. I'll go backwards. You've got a lot of nooks and crannies in this little one, but when it's cut, it's stunning. Let's see. And I'll tell you what I may do. I find that sometimes if it needs a little extra, you can emboss it. I think that's cut well. Let's just do the emboss and see how we do. Pop that through. Your sandwich is the gray plate, the tan matte and the pink plate for your embossing. Let's see how we do. See that? There we go. Okay, now it does look as if I've got it all cut, so let's see. And what we want to do is we're going to actually clear emboss that ink that we put on there. So let's take that over here. I've got a piece of copy paper. And we're going to undo this and the big reveal. Now, before I emboss it, if you can see, you've got the difference in color there from your ink, but all those little areas that were open on the die have become embossed and they have no ink on them. There is a little bit of poking out I'll do, but I think I'll put my embossing powder on first. And we're just going to sprinkle it over. And for this, I need my heat tool. Let's just do a little heat embossing here. You can see the clear embossing powder just turn. And if you heat it from underneath, you'll actually get a smoother finish, but it does take you a little bit longer. So I thought for the video, we'd just do it from the top. We're almost there. Just get this little spot right here. That looks pretty good. Now I've got a few pieces that just need to be popped out. Give them a little pop. I may have even embossed them into place a bit, so let's just take those out. got them all. So you can see how the embossed little areas have stayed the same color as the original cardstock, but you've got a much deeper color now where you've embossed over it. It's really, really pretty. So let me just tidy up a little bit. There we go. And we'll put our card together. So I've got a frame that I've put a bit of mounting foam on the back ahead of time. So we're going to go ahead and center that over our embossed background now. Just peel off the backing strips. And I might have a tiny bit of tidying trim-wise here. Let's just see how we do. That's pretty good. I'm just going to take my scissors and trim the edges here and hit the corners. You've got those really pretty little cut corners on those large labels. There. And I see just maybe a couple little spots I've missed, but you can come back and do that later. There we go. See how pretty that is? Okay, so let's assemble our card. So I've got a little piece of blue to kind of mat that on, a little bit of tape, double-sided tape we'll use. And we'll just bring this in the back. And then we'll do our sentiment. You can use glue if you prefer. The Cosmic Shimmer glue is lovely for this too. It's personal preference at this point, what you use to stick your cards together. Oops. There we go. I'm going to center that right there. Oh, excuse me. I forgot I have a white piece I want to put it onto first. There we go. And now we'll put it onto the blue piece. And I'll just put a couple pieces of tape there to put it together. Okay, center that. That looks pretty good. Now, we're going to be using the center of the San Francisco Set 1, which is really, really pretty collection, California collection of our new die set. And I'm going to tape this onto a piece of card, and we'll run this one through. And I've got a sentiment that's already been stamped out, and you can use any sentiment. I've just used You're Amazing. And we're going to cut this with the decorative Set B out of the California collection. And I'm going to tape this around the sentiment. So you can center it right through your die there. Put a piece of tape on it. We're going to do a little inking later, so let's get our cutting mats. Oops. There we go. Put that on there, and let's see. In fact, let's go like that. And run them through. Now, the first die that I put on is very, very detailed, so you might need several passes through with that one. Once through, and then what I do is usually turn it. Oh, it actually looks like it's cut quite well, so I'm going to go ahead and emboss them. But if it hasn't, if you have some spots that look like they haven't cut completely through, which is sometimes the case with detailed dies, then just turn it a different direction, put it in a different spot on your plate, pass it through again. It's perfectly normal on really detailed dies. And we'll do some embossing. So I've switched out, I've got my base plate with my cutting dies going upward, my tan mat over it, and the pink embossing plate. And let's run this through. Let's see. Okay, so I've got that one I'm going to do a little inking with. Let me set these out of the way. And grab my pokey tool. Oh, there it is. And you've got lots of cutaway pieces here, so you just have to just poke them out and then find the release holes on the tips, pull it away, and you've got a few extras. I've actually got one here I've already poked out all the bits from, but you can see how pretty that is, and these just need to be poked away. And there's a lot of curly cues on these ones, so as you poke them away, be careful not to pull too hard because you don't want to pull the little leftover bits because they're really fine and detailed. It's gorgeous die, really love it. Now, I'm going to do a tiny bit of inking. I've got some weathered wood and some cut and dry foam, and it just really lightly around the edge to kind of bring up that shape. Make sure your tape hasn't extended past the die so you don't get a void there. You can do this as heavy or as light as you like. That looks pretty good. We'll pop that one out. See how pretty that is? Really like that. And then don't forget to untape your dies and put them back onto your magnetic sheet so you don't lose them. Get that one up there. And let's just add a little bit of mounting foam. We can assemble the rest of our card. So I'm going to put a piece on here. And since this is going to cover this, I'll use a piece to attach this to the background. And it's not going to show. Put that in the center. Put this one right in the middle of that so you get just the beautiful detail peeking out. And let's just finish with a couple of flat back pearls in the corner. You have those really, really pretty cut corners from the large labels that they just cry out for pearls. They do. Let's pop those on. If I'm posting this, I'll usually use a little glue to make sure they're good and secure. But just for the demonstration, we'll just pop them on. You can see how it looks. Right, get a hold of that last little guy. There you go, quick and easy. Now if you want, you could embellish this card further with flowers and all sorts of things, but I really wanted to show off the faux letterpress background on this, and so I decided to leave it very, very simple. But you know, when you do yours, you can do it any way you like. Hope you've enjoyed this one.